Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Wow, we got an absolutely fantastic show set for you today. You know, we got so much unrest around the world right now, especially with what's going on in the Israel-Gaza war. Uh, and it's just disturbed a lot of folks, especially on our college campus. And I believe, not knowing a whole lot about that, but I believe it's a lot of misunderstanding because I believe our young folk, along with people in general, need to understand the history about a lot of things that we might not know about. I'm not saying that's going to solve the problem, but it give us all a better understanding of what's going on. And today, I think that we're going to try to touch bases a little bit on that because we got one of our very good friends and that's been on the show before, and she's a professor on the college campus, and she's going to talk to us about a couple of things, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we even get to there, how you doing, Dr. Cooley? How you doing today?
I'm doing good, James. This is really an important topic, and everyone is entitled to, opinion, free speech, but I guess it's just the way you do it and really understand what you're protesting about. There's some, I believe there's some people who like to join in, but they're not fully understanding. They're just kind of like being a follower, so to speak. If you're going to protest, really fully understand the history and what you're protesting about.
Not just protesting, but I think everybody have the right to protest, but
Mhm.
I'm talking about nonviolent protests.
Yes.
Is what I think many of us need to get an understanding. We all got our own opinions. We all have our own thoughts. We all have all this, but it doesn't have to become violent. And so I think that this is so important for our listeners and our viewers uh, to watch the show and chime in, ask any questions that you might have. So I tell you, Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show? purpose of the show and introduce this absolutely wonderful guest.
Yes, so the title of today's show is College Protests and College Culture. So we're having a sit down discussion with Dr. Rachael McGlaston. She's an entrepreneur and a college professor. We're talking about students divided on various issues. Basically, the end of the semester adds, to the fatigue and tension as part of the semester already imbues. We're going to talk about campus and student morale and really the nationwide understanding of college protests. So as an advocate for education self-transformation, Dr. McGlasson holds a master's degree in sociology from CSU San Marcos and a doctorate from UCSD, where her research delved into transformational leadership, femininity, and race. Her work has specifically explored how individuals forge communities in both virtual and physical realms, the concept of emotional labor, and the utilization of feminine principles in the leadership realm, particularly among C-suite female executives. Dr. McGlaston wears many hats as an entrepreneur, owner of two businesses, Young One Experience and Womanize simultaneously. She serves as a college professor, embraces the role of homemaker, nurturing her two children, ages 3 and 5, and supporting a husband. Looking to the future, she is passionate about empowering individuals, particularly women, to discover and pursue their life purpose. So please welcome back to the show, Dr. Rachael McGlaston.
How you doing, Doc? It's always a pleasure having you on the show, I tell you, because every time you come on, you just bring a wealth of knowledge. And you are on the campuses, and not necessarily that protests are happening. Heavily on the campus that you teach at. However, but it is good to understand what's going on in the mind of a lot of the students that are protesting, and to see if they understand why they're protesting, and how we could try to keep this at a non-violent perspective. Yeah, so those are some of the things I want to talk about today. But I tell you what, before we even get started, can you tell our viewers and listeners that might have not seen you on the show before? You've been on about 3, 4 times, I think. Can you tell them a little bit about you, your background, and just who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dr. Michelle did an amazing job kind of giving my background, but I am Dr. Rachael McGlaston. I teach currently at Cal State San Marcos, I'm trying to think of anything that Dr. Michelle didn't already say. I am really passionate, I guess I'll add this, about, of course, free speech, but also making sure that people are aware of the issues that they're passionate about protesting, and also just getting a solid understanding of kind of where people are at in how they're conceptualizing whatever it is that's going on. One of the things that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point today is that the group of students, this particular, I guess, generation of students, they've already lived through quite a bit of civil unrest during their collegiate experiences. This is the group of students that when they were graduating from high school, a lot of them, that was in 2020. So a lot of them already experienced having their high school graduations be canceled. And so for those students, at places like UCLA that are now having their college commencement ceremonies canceled, for different reasons. And then, of course, remembering also in 2020, all of the Black Lives Matter protests, they've experienced a lot. And I don't know how much they understand all of the different things happening. So I'm really interested in kind of just getting a finger on the pulse and understanding where students' heads are at.
Yeah, and you're right. 2020, and it's the same class all over, where we had COVID, we had all of these other things that was happening, where everybody had to pretty much stay at home, and there was hardly any graduations other than online, or I think they had drive-bys or something. I forgot to my
Yeah, we did.
So it's I do understand how that is affecting that same group of folks. I'm talking about 2020 and now 2024 when you're getting ready to graduate. But how do we explain the recent protests on various campuses that has dominated the news, uh, because I believe a lot of the students, they don't know why they're protesting.
Mhm.
I mean, they doing it because everybody else is doing it. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that there are a decent number of students that do have, at the very least, a foundational understanding of the situation that's going on in Israel and Palestine. Um, but there are, of course, a number of students that want to, just be there for the sake of solidarity and supporting their friends that they see um, grappling and struggling with what's going on. So they might not have the same foundational level of understanding of what's happening, but they know that they want to show their support. Um, and so I think for the students that have at least a foundational level of understanding, they're really trying to understand what their university's role or roles are related to this conflict. I think a lot of the students that are at some of these Ivy League schools that have been protesting have really started to understand the relationship that their universities have with Israel or with our government, which of course have ties to Israel. And so they're protesting some of that, and some of it is protesting, of course, just the violence and the genocide that's happening. And I think that students in general, as young people, younger demographics, I think are typically a lot more empathetic more quickly than maybe some older people, older generations are, anytime that they hear anything going on related to violence and again, genocide, children being killed, women being killed. And so I think kind of in all of that is where students are feeling called to protest. And then again, going back to something that I said a minute ago, this demographic of students are the same ones that were really passionate about protesting during the Black Lives Matter movement. And what I've gathered from my students these last few weeks is that a lot of them felt like they didn't really understand the historical context of the Black Lives Matter movement, but they felt really compelled to join their peers and found themselves feeling really passionate about the protests, but didn't really understand why. And I think a lot of them don't want to make that same mistake again. So I do think that a number of students have at least done their due diligence to kind of try and understand what it is that's going on, and make a somewhat informed decision as to what it is that they want to protest, if they want to protest. So they're trying.
This is toward the end of the semester. I'm talking about, and summer's about to click in, and a lot of these students, and I'm kind of worried about the juniors and below. The seniors, yes, I think they got a bad deal, but I'm hoping that the influence of what's going on right now, and maybe the fatigue of all the things, the unrest that are on these campuses, does not spill into the next graduating class, because a lot of the students been arrested, and I mean, regardless of whether you protest and if it's civil or whatever, I believe that the decisions that we make, especially getting arrested, doing this, doing that could have a major effect on your life as it moves forward.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a station break, but I want you to think about that one during the break, and want to talk about that one on the other side of the break. I tell you what, whichever platform that you're watching this on, if you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform, ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Yes, your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The
I'm proud of who you are, and one that keeps us close when we're apart. Talking from the darkness of all that we've been through, it seems that there might be a way to leave behind the loneliness we've known and live again life of
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and my great friend here, Dr. Rachael McGlaston. And what we're talking about today is protests on college campuses. And again, I just want everybody to know I believe in protests, as long as it's civil, and there's nonviolence. And many other times I think that protests happens, and many folks sometimes they send people in and to unto my people that's not a part of campuses to stir up certain things, and that kind of rile up a lot of, I believe, the students, and they don't understand why they're doing it. And toward the end of the last segment, I was talking about, I hope, since school is almost out, you got summer coming up, and you got other classes, the junior classes and below, but you also have the seniors that are graduating. Well, I don't know how we can encourage them to hold their head up, because this happened to them twice, two different circumstances. And they are our future leaders of tomorrow. But they have to make right decisions for as what to do, when to do, nonviolence, and etc. So, Dr. Rachel, I asked you to think about that one during the break. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel a little bit nervous isn't the right word, but I can only imagine having your kind of entry point into adulthood be so fraught with, again, civil unrest. I think that this group of students has experienced so much over the last 4 years. I mean, we all have, but I imagine being a young adult and experiencing what feels like back to back to back nonstop civil unrest, and how that would affect my outlook on the future, on my country, on, just American culture, global culture, just everything. And that makes me feel, like I said, nervous isn't the right word, but it makes me feel something like nervous for them. I do think that we'll probably see some interesting things going on in politics on our end in the United States. Of course, we're in an election year, and I think that the students that are taking the time to really get a solid understanding of what's going on, because they are so tired of the things that they've seen over the last 4 years, I do think that they're going to make a correlation between our politics and what they've seen going on. And so I'm curious to see how that's all going to shake out.
Dr. Rachael, tell us about student morale, what you've witnessed, and can you kind of give us examples of the morale you've seen, at least on your campus, with the students and what's going on with the different protests?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think they're just tired. They're so tired. They're tired, not just because it's the end of the semester. It's the end of the school year at this point. So you just kind of have the general fatigue that comes along every May. There's that little bit of excitement, especially for graduating seniors, kind of getting ready to embark on the next chapter of their lives. But I think in general, they're just feeling really tired and really burnt out. And a lot of that comes from the overall global climate. Again, as we've talked about a number of times now, there's been so much that they've had to experience in a relatively short amount of time. And so I think that their overall morale, while they want to be optimistic about their futures, because that's what we all want, especially, coming out of college and or being in college, you're kind of in that period of time in your life where you want to feel excited and you want to feel optimistic and you want to have a lot of things to look forward to. But I think that these young people have experienced so much that a lot of us in older generations, we had more time between like these major events than this demographic of students has. And so as much as we're all exhausted, imagine having all of this happen between the ages of 18 and 22, and then to be told, well, buckle up, welcome to adulthood, good luck. So I think that they're like, can we catch a break, please?
So what have, let's say, college administrators, what have they done as far as providing assistance, to students who are having problems, adjusting to this? I mean, a lot of college campuses, a lot of colleges have said, okay, they can just do remote learning. But again, the college experience is about being on campus and socializing with your peers. So in your experience, has the administration offered like assistance, let's say those who are suffering from maybe mental health issues, or those who didn't suffer from it, but they don't know how to embrace what is going on? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So unfortunately, mental health resources, access to mental health resources is one of the things that I think I would venture to say most campuses are struggling with. It's, we're understaffed in a lot of those areas. We're under-resourced in a lot of those areas. And a lot of those departments, a lot of the mental health teams on campuses are already so strapped because students have been coming to them in droves at this point for all of their mental health issues and concerns that may or may not be related to the protests going on right now, and feelings of psychological safety and that type of thing. So you add something like this to the situation and it just exacerbates that. This was already a generation that was really struggling with anxiety. To your point that you mentioned a minute ago, Dr. Michelle, I think that this generation has struggled to connect with each other on that interpersonal level. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the fact that they were doing online learning during a really critical period of time in their lives. And then they came to college campuses and didn't really know how to make up the ground for that. And so they're already trying to utilize any mental health resources that are available to them that were already underfunded at that point. And then, you have situations like this, like all of the protests, and it just kind of adds gasoline to that fire. And so students don't really know where to go to get help. And students, staff, faculty, kind of the whole campus. And so that has yet another effect on the overall campus morale and campus climate.
You mentioned campus climate. So we've talked about the students. Now let's talk about the administration, the faculty, teachers professors such as yourself. How are you dealing with it and your fellow peers, especially when there's so many divisions, regardless of what side you're on, and just, I guess, maybe anger about what's going on? So how is the administration and the faculty professors dealing with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it really depends. I think everybody's dealing with it a little bit differently. To be honest, I don't think that all disciplines, all of the academic disciplines, I don't think that all of us find ourselves in conversations about this. You know, if you're, I don't know, I'm making generalizations here, but let's say that you're in the sciences, there's not really much of an opportunity to have these types of discussions come up in class. Whereas, you know, I teach in the social sciences. So everything that I talk about is related to whether it's education or human relationships or historical understandings of geography and religion and ethnicity. And so my subject matter lends itself to having these types of conversations. And so I feel like faculty members that are in disciplines that require them to kind of know what's going on, have an understanding of how their students are probably feeling, have a completely different experience from those that don't face that in the classroom. And so that I think is the biggest determinant of how faculty members are feeling. I can't really speak too much to, you know, campus staff, just because I don't interface with staff members all that often. And then I think administration finds themselves in kind of a precarious position because you look around the country and, you know, there are calls for a lot of university presidents to step down because of the way that the protests have been handled. Of course, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with how police showed up in riot gear at UCLA to basically break up the primarily peaceful protests that were going on. And, you know, there are a lot of people that are saying, like, to the university presidents, what are you doing? Why was that the way that you decided to handle this? And so I think what that does to other university presidents and administration is it kind of puts them on edge, because what happens if a protest breaks out at your school? How are you going to handle that, knowing that everybody is watching to see how you're going to address the protests? So I think that they're in a tricky situation.
Wow. I definitely could imagine. And, you know, I feel like I believe that there are some students, you know, and maybe some faculty, the goal is to, you know, express their grievances or support whatever side you're on. And maybe in their mind, that takes precedence over the other students who maybe not involved in it, takes precedence over the other students' education. When you look at it that way, it's like, is that really fair? You know, just because you're not participating, whether the protest is peaceful or not, you know, you're just going there for an education.
Right.
But that is being disrupted in a lot of campuses because of what's going on. So they may not see it that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that unfortunately, I feel like universities often drop the ball in these types of situations, because I think that this could potentially be an amazing learning opportunity, right? Like, imagine if there were conversation circles happening around these protests, like on campus, where students who don't know what's going on are able to hear from all sides of the situation, and to ask questions that they might otherwise be afraid to ask or uninspired to ask. And I think that we dropped the ball on that. So there's a way to do it, and I just don't think that we're doing it.
Wow. This is a very intriguing conversation. And you are so knowledgeable. You and Michelle, I was just sitting back, just bringing it all in. But we're going to take a station break. But we're going to come back. We're going to pick it up. We're going to continue this discussion. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is go to the platform that you're on. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
We live in a world today that people don't even care about how people see them. Don't realize that we can affect an entire generation and build our character. But you gotta do it with these 4 C's. Create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. Create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. It's the 4 C's. It's the 4 C's. In this life you are gonna grow, but there's things in this world that you gotta know. To be the best that you can be, you wanna grow real big into a strong tree. To be who you were created to be, the one who's gonna leave a legacy is you. But you have to have these 4 C's. Create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. Create, collaborate, then you commit with confidence. It's the 4 C's. It's the 4 C's.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I kind of got caught up in the 4 C's: create, collaborate, commit with confidence. And a lot of people don't know that that's what my foundation is all about. The J.C. Cooley Foundation is built on what we call the 4 C's: create, collaborate, commit with confidence in everything that you do. That means your thoughts, your decisions, every other people that you have around you, understanding the people that are teaching and guiding you, because we all grew up. And it's not just for our kids. It's not just for our students. It's for all of us, because we all have to live in this world together. We all have to understand each other together. and Dr. Rachael McGlaston is, at a university teaching, uh, educating our future leaders of tomorrow. Yeah, and we have to give them a little room to do what they have wanted to do. I'm talking about as it relate to protests, but we also have to keep them focused on making sure they make the right decisions. Yeah, so um, Rachel, did your university have to change, or did they think about a lot of things that was once all of these other universities around the country, especially the Ivy League schools and the major universities like UCLA and Cal State, Berkeley, and all of these major schools. And I know you and Michelle talked a little bit about the decision that the presidents of the school, the chancellor of the school, made. Did your school take in considerations any other thing that you all might have to have changed in order to keep your student at campus uh, civil and keep them focused, especially toward the end of the year, which one we at right now?
You know, I haven't really heard much of anything related to what our administration has changed. I will say that we have a pretty present Jewish population on our campus, and so and because of things that have happened also in recent history, there was, of course, the synagogue shooting a couple of years ago, and the Jewish population on our campus, that was a hard and heavy time for them, and I think because we have students from all of the different demographics that are affected by the current situation, I think our campus is probably trying to be very careful, and our administration is probably trying to be very careful with how they handle this. But I haven't heard anything specific about changes being made to accommodate all of this.
Well, do you believe that? I know that this is. I would hate to be a chancellor or president of any university right now with this going on. Do you believe that since school is coming to an end this week or next week, that a lot of the unrest that are happening on the campuses will kind of ease out? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhat inevitable that it'll settle down because students aren't going to be on campus after, kind of depends on what university system you're in, but students aren't going to be on campus within the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so inevitably it'll die down a bit. But I don't know if that just means that the protests are going to shift to other avenues, to other arenas. Obviously, again, going back to 2020, when nobody was on campus, that didn't stop people from being out in the streets and protesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if the protests just move from college campuses to other public areas, but we'll see.
As a professor, and you're dealing with your students, and you love we become attached to our students. I say, and as you see your mini-me, your sister, put up USC. That's where she at.
That's where she went. That's her alma mater.
She want to call that out, and Mecca, yes, USC. I love the sports team, but what are some of the things that you tell your students, because they listen to their professor, especially when they know that the professor believe in them, want the best for them, and all of these things that are going on around them, and a lot of them get emotional, and we have to calm them down. Remember last time you was on the show, I talked to you about the CCU. I don't know if you remember that. The CCU is you have students coming in and they are conflicted with a lot of things, and the only thing they want to do is just talk
Yeah.
to you, and they want to just get it out, and you don't have to do anything. They're gonna talk.
Mm-hmm.
Professor McGlaston,
Mm-hmm.
all these things going through my mind, all boom, 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 because they trust
Right.
you, and that's what it is. And so that's the chaplain portion of it. A lot of times they come in, they still trust you,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to guide them. Like, okay, this really has nothing to do with you. Your
Mm-hmm.
career is here, but you can voice and you can do what you have to do, but make sure you don't overstep that line where it's going to jeopardize everything, especially you get graduated.
Right.
Yeah, so that's coaching.
Mm-hmm.
The last one is they come in, I'm like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna burn, I'm do all this. You're out.
Mm-hmm.
We have to calm them down. But my point is that's umpire. You have to say you have to call the balls and strikes. When we have uh, students or we have people that trust and believe in us, we have to provide the right guidance to them, and because emotions sometimes takes over. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts on that because I think part of why we see so many protests happening with young people is because young people tend to be more vivacious and fired up about things. So there's part of me that, doesn't want to get rid of that passion, because I think that's a necessary ingredient to peaceful protesting. And at the same time, I think young people just need a little bit of help kind of channeling that energy appropriately sometimes. And my biggest thing with my students is just making sure that they have the tools that they need to be able to understand the broader situation. Because I think sometimes what's really easy for young people is to, see something going on Twitter or X, or Instagram or TikTok. And in those areas, there's these very specific narratives that get laid out for them. And I think it's really easy for young people to just pick one of the narratives and run with it and put all of that fire and passion behind it without really having an understanding of the rest of the story that makes the picture complete. And so that's one of the things that I try and focus on, is really just helping them build the tools, not so much me feeding them the information, but teaching them how to seek out accurate information and piece together a story for themselves. And then from there, decide how they want to channel their energy. And Mecca is mentioning USC because she's saying that USC is also having some issues. Mecca, I encourage you to look up what's been going on at UCLA, because while you're right, there are issues going on at USC, and the commencement speaker was basically told you don't get to speak anymore. The riot geared police that I was talking about earlier happened at UCLA. But to this point, it's happening all over the place. And I think anytime that there's civil unrest on college campuses, it kind of spreads like wildfire. So we will see where else it might go.
That's why I believe that it's so important. And what I was talking about, the CCU coach, chaplain, coach, umpire, teaching, the leadership style. So we have to be able to adjust to us, whoever. Once you don't fit all, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But as leaders, as teachers, as educators, we understand that some you can identify who you think in your mind that you've been educating for the last 3-4 years, that's got potential, that's going to do great things. And you can also identify who got potential, but they're a little hot-headed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was talking about with the coaching and all of these type of things. So Mika, we got about not Mika. I'm thinking about your sister Mika. Mika, you are coming on the show one of these days. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. So what do we do? I'm talking about you guys as professors and teachers to encourage our young folks, our students, to stay motivated, stay focused. This too will pass.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? You got like a minute.
Okay. I think this is another reason to teach people critical thinking, because if you're able to be a critical thinker and look at the broader context and see how many times and how often these types of situations happen throughout history, you'll realize that this is just one more piece of the puzzle that makes up our humanity. And so, yes, this too shall pass. It always does. But also, help people figure out, why are they here? What are you doing here? And how are you, why are you here on this planet to make a difference? And, then finding the answer to that, and then connecting it with this fiery passion. I think that's where the sweet spot is.
Wow. And I think you hit it on the nose. We're going to take a station break, but I hope that you all are enjoying this just as well as I am, because this is such an important topic. And this too will pass, just like what we just said. In history, throughout our history, things have occurred. We just have to be able to weather the storm. And I tell you what, we're going to take a station break. If you want to be part of the conversation, not too late, all you have to do, go to the platform that you're watching us on, ask any questions that you might have. Dr. Rachael McGlaston will have all the answers for you.
Don't lie to these people.
Yes, you're like, we'll see you shortly after the break.
There is much truth in a journey that ain't over yet, as all of us journey through life's precious gift of time, just like James Cooley has. Hi, I'm Noah Dingley, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. There's a new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet. You can join James as he shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. This is a must listen for anyone who thinks they're stuck in life or needs to understand their current situation is not their final destination. Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet is the unfiltered truth to provide hope for the future by challenging you to refuse to become a victim of life's circumstances. It dares you to be an overcomer because a bigger, better, and more impactful life awaits you. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, we're down to about the last 4 minutes of the show. But this is, I think, it's intriguing that we understand. And Dr. Rachel always bring it. She comes with us with a clear mind, clear thoughts, and being on campus a lot of times or teaching a lot of these future leaders of tomorrow is up to her and other professors to make sure we keep our future leaders focused. Rachel, I want to talk about a little bit of social media, digital platforms, all of this. You know, when things are happening on all of these different campuses around the country and around the world, sometimes that create a what we call a copycat mentality. This campus want to do what they're doing because they think it's cool or whatever. How can we try to prevent what's happening? I know you saying your campus is not having those major problems like that, but many others, and a lot of campuses are doing this copycat thing, and they have people come in to orchestrate and push these things. How do you keep your kid? I wouldn't call them kids, but your students focused.
That's $1 million question. I think that with social media, this is tricky because I think it's a little bit more nuanced than we want to make it out to be. So, this is just these are my thoughts on this. Okay, I can't cite any research on this, but I think when you see things like what's going on in LA, so whether we're talking about at UCLA or USC, I'm speaking specifically about UCLA right now because of the history of police brutality in Los Angeles. And so to have LAPD show up at UCLA in riot gear, that narrative being spread on social media is very different from looking at a place like Columbia University, and what's going on over there, because the Ivy Leagues in general, the narrative I think that's going to be spread about those campuses is a little bit more political in the sense that I think it relates more to our government and our politics, whereas you hear things about what's going on at places like UCLA, and it makes you think a little bit more about social issues related to race and ethnicity and those types of things. And so I think when students find themselves in these bubbles, in these online spaces, the filter bubbles, it's hard for them to not, it's hard for them to be able to see the bigger picture, because everything that they're seeing online, it starts to filter more and more of that same content to them, which makes it seem like there's a lot more of this going on than maybe there actually is. For example, we don't really hear about any major protests going on in the middle of the country. A lot of these big protests on campus seem to be happening on the coasts and at these bigger, more elite campuses. And so to your point, I think we see a lot of students feeling like there's something that they should be doing and feeling like there's all of this civil unrest when really there might not be. And so I think, again, it's just a matter of telling them, okay, you can keep, I was going to say, put your phones down, but keep your phones out and let's do a little bit of research about what's actually going on. So trying to get students a little bit more rooted in reality and context and understanding, again, the bigger, broader picture on a global scale, I think is really important. But first, we got to start by teaching those skills in the first place. And that's a whole different can of worms to open.
Wow. Dr. Rachael McGlaston, you have been a perfect guest I think this 5 times in a row. And that's why Dr. Michelle Cooley loved calling on you. Like, hey, we got, and she's available.
Well, you know, I love it. I love it. I appreciate you inviting me back on.
So I want to thank you so much. I do want you to talk to your sister. I want to get both of you guys on one of these days. If you guys can make that work.
Absolutely. Careful what you wish for.
I'm talking about within the next 3 weeks.
Let's do it.
So, and I hope Mecca is listening as well. But I want to thank you. I mean, always for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and it's always fantastic. And we love you. We love you. We will be back in California within about a week and a half. Just like I mentioned to you about the scholarships and stuff that we're doing. So Michelle will be with me. She can't wait to meet you. Yes, we're looking forward to it. So I want to thank you for taking time to come on the show. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley again for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. Is Your Life, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On Sunday, KCBQ AM 1170, FM 96.1, and syndicated on the radio. As always, I want you to dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Yes, your life. We'll see you then.